Okay, so let's talk about a word that can sometimes sound a little, well, intimidating when it comes to research. Theory. But what if I told you it's not some dusty, abstract concept tucked away in a library? It's actually one of the most powerful and practical tools we have for making sense of the world. So let's dive in.
This is a really good question. I mean, it seems logical, doesn't it? Just go out, gather up all the data, find the facts, and you're done. But think about it like this. Imagine trying to build a house by just, piling up bricks and wood wherever you feel like it. It just wouldn't work, right? Well, research without a theory is kind of like that. You end up with a big pile of facts, but you have no idea how they all fit together.
All right, so to make this super simple, we're going to use one main idea for this whole explainer. I want you to think of a theory in two different ways. On one hand, it can be a blueprint, a really detailed, precise plan that you're setting out to test. And on the other hand, it can be a map, more of a guide that helps you explore brand new, unknown territory. Two totally different tools for two very different kinds of jobs.
Okay, so let's start with the blueprint. This is where we get into the world of quantitative research. We call it a top-down approach, and it's called that for a reason. You start with the big idea, the theory, and then you work your way down to collecting very specific data to see if that big idea actually holds up in the real world.
Okay, I know, formal definition time, but stick with me, because this one's actually really helpful. It says a theory is a set of connected variables that gives a systematic view of something in order to explain it. So a quantitative theory isn't just a random guess. No, it's a structured way to both explain and even predict how different factors, or what we call variables, relate to each other. It's all about figuring out cause and effect.
I love this way of thinking about it, right? You've got these two separate dots, these two different factors in the world. The theory is literally the rainbow that connects them. It's that beautiful overarching explanation that tells you the how and the why one thing might be influencing another. It's really the connective tissue of the whole research project.
So to build that rainbow, you've got to have some dots. The first kind of dot is the independent variable. Think of this as the cause. It's the thing the researcher is tweaking or focusing on to see what happens. So in a classic health study, for example, it might be something like the daily consumption of red wine. That's the factor we think is going to do something.
And if the independent variable is the cause, well, the dependent variable is the effect. The outcome literally depends, see how that works, on whatever happens with the independent variable. So, going back to our example, the incidence of heart attacks would be the dependent variable. Does that number go up or does it go down based on how much red wine people are drinking? That's what the study would measure.
And this is pretty much how researchers will sketch out their blueprint. A visual model like this shows the proposed flow of influence. Over on the left, you've got your predictor variables. That's just another name for the independent ones. And the arrows show how you theorize they're going to affect the outcome, or dependent variables, over on the right. It's basically a picture of their hypothesis.
And boom, here it is. This flowchart just lays out that whole top-down process perfectly. You can see how it all flows from the top to the bottom. You start with that big, broad theory. From there, you get more specific and form a testable hypothesis. Then you figure out exactly how to measure everything, and finally, you collect the data to see if you were right. That is the deductive or blueprint method in a nutshell. All right, time to flip the script. What happens when you don't have a blueprint? What if you're stepping into a whole new territory that nobody has really explored before? Well, that's where the map comes in. This brings us to the world of qualitative research, which is a bottom-up approach all about discovery.
See, in this qualitative world, theory can play a couple of really different roles. Sometimes it acts like a lens you look through. It's a perspective that shapes the kind of questions you ask and what you decide to focus on. But other times, and this is a huge difference, the theory is the final destination. The entire point of the research is to dig into the data and arrive at a brand new theory at the very end.
So what do we mean by a lens, exactly? Well, these are often called theoretical standpoints. For instance, a researcher might use a feminist perspective to really zero in on issues of gender and power. Or they might use critical theory to look at how things like race and social class create barriers. These lenses don't tell you the answers, but they do help you focus your questions on the experiences of specific and often marginalized groups.
And check this out. Here's how that whole map drawing process works. You can see this flowchart is basically the opposite of the other one we saw. This is the inductive process. You start at the very bottom, just gathering raw info, maybe from interviews or observations. Then you move up, looking for themes and patterns in all that data. And from those patterns, you build your way all the way to the top, creating a new theory. You're literally drawing the map as you go.
So right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's cool, but can you do both? And the answer is a big yes. That's something called mixed methods research, and it can be incredibly powerful because you get to combine the strengths of both approaches.
It really is the best of both worlds. A researcher can use that quantitative blueprint to test a super specific hypothesis, while at the very same time using that qualitative map drawing approach to get a really rich, deep understanding of the context and the real-life experiences of the people they're studying. You get both precision and depth.
Okay, blueprints, maps, top-down, bottom-up. So what? Why does any of this matter to you when you're just scrolling through the news and see a headline about some new study? Well, this is where all this stuff becomes a really practical, everyday skill.
I mean, really, so what? Why should you care about a researcher's plan? Because understanding where they started, understanding their theory, is the absolute key to being able to critically evaluate what they found. It's like being able to look under the hood of the research. When you understand the theory, you instantly know if the study's real goal was to test an old idea or explore a new one. You can spot the lens they might be using, which helps you see their perspective. And this is the big one. It empowers you to question the assumptions and be a much smarter consumer of information, instead of just taking a headline at face value.
So if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. The very next time you see a headline about a new study or some big scientific claim, just ask yourself this one simple question. Were the researchers following a detailed blueprint, or were they exploring new territory and drawing a map? Just answering that one question will tell you almost everything you need to know about what you're really reading.